Okay. All right, I got a backup for my phone and on my laptop just in case. Got it. Okay, being recorded. Let me see if I can share my screen. I want to make sure. Got it. Okay. Let's see if I could share my screen. Yes, cool, good. Anyway, welcome to Soulful Wednesday. Let me hide my meeting controls. Hide floating meeting controls. There we go. Perfect. Get all these windows out of the way, these little zoom things here, zoom things there, and all that kind of good stuff. All right, how is everyone? Hello? Anybody
Hanging
there?
in there.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay. Tiffany,
Outstanding.
anybody? Oh, there you go. That's getting better. Good, great. All right, good. Paola, thank you. Great. All right. Somebody said hanging in there. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, we had a death in the family.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my condolences.
Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, I love these Soulful Wednesdays. It's been a long time. Thank you, Maria. You're feeling blessed. Amen. We are blessed. And this morning, particularly this morning, I love when I discover new things and new groups. And it's amazing in a lot of these times that we spent together. I said one of the goals in life that we should have is above all else, I want to see, right? Above all else, I want to see. And it's amazing when you get in that mindset, how things just come to you. And when they come to you, everything else. So this morning is going to be really, really important. And, even though there's only 34, we're kind of sleeping in this morning or whatever we're doing. I'm going to give you my all, and I'm going to give you my heart, and I'm going to give you my soul. So what I'm going to ask you for is that you turn your phones not only off, or not off, but silent with no vibration or anything, and turn them upside down so you can't see the screen. And not for me, though. Don't do it for me. I want you to do it for you. That you took this time, this subject today, the heart and the brain, what I discovered is just, I'm just blown away. I mean, I couldn't wait to share this with you this morning. Because what we've talked about many times on these Wednesdays, that when I used to be doing them every Wednesday, it's all about unlearning. So I want you to turn your phones upside down so you don't get disturbed by anything or anybody, because I want you to really go into a mode of getting the brain and the heart working together and in sync. And you're going to see what this is all about. So if you'll do that, number one. Number two, if you'll write down not only what I say or what we go over, because I'll send you this PDF, but what you're going to have to do in order to get the PDF, I'm not putting it in the link, because I want to know who's requested it. I want to know who reached out and who cares enough, because if you care enough, I'm going to care enough too to spend more time with you. But here's my email back here, answers@defalco.com. It's on the bottom of these slides, answers@defalco.com. One email with the subject line, heart coherence, heart coherence. And I will give you a copy of this slide deck that I'm going to go over with us this morning, okay? So you got my email, and you're going to write in the subject line only 2 words, heart coherence. That way I can keep them separated by subject, and I can make sure that you get a copy of this PDF, because you're going to want this. You're going to want it if you are at all interested in your life expanding and growing and being better than it is today. But if you're totally happy, totally content, no issues, that, life couldn't be better, then you may not need them. But I don't think that's the case, so you wouldn't be on the call. So let's get going. So Soulful Wednesday, just to always, I start out with the same thing. I'm not here to teach you anything today. I'm here to learn with you, and we're here to unlearn, because it's a thought reversal system. This is all from A Course in Miracles. I've mentioned that many times. The Course in Miracles is a thought reversal system. It's about unlearning, not learning. We know too much, and that's where the ego comes in. We think we know. We don't know. We don't know. And we don't want to know. We just want to see. There's a big difference between knowing and seeing. I had two major things going on with people in conflict with me this week, that I had started out with the heart and the soul of helping them and grow their business and do this and that. And two times it came back that they were suspicious, that they bailed on what some of the things they said. They didn't keep, because their heart and their head is not in sync. This is so critical, the subject I'm going to go over with you today. But you got to unlearn your BS, your belief systems. And we got to get out of this fear mode and get into this love mode and get out of that ego and get into the soul. So that's what this is all about. So today, I just can't wait to show you what I'm going to go over with you. I'm excited because I want you to get rid of that BS, that belief system that's holding you back, that holds us all back. So let me move right down here. This is the review that we've had all the times that we were together. The main one, again, you never see things the way they are. You always and only see things the way you are. That is so true, so true, so true. And what I'm going to share with you today just brought this to so much more light for me. That why is it that our egos just constantly rule? These two circumstances this past week, it's actually been longer than this past week. 2 weeks I poured my heart into a couple things that it came back that there's that saying, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, I don't buy into that. I understand where it came from. And I agree in many ways, because this ego soul battle that everybody has. But one of the things I still believe is that with this, if you learn how to see, not what you know, not what you think, not even what you feel, but the light, to be able to see is so critical, so critical. So today I want to help us get there, where no matter what goes on the outside, on the inside, we're as bright as can be, and that we're in sync. So that's where we are. So what is today's subject? I'm so glad you're here, because I want to go over with you what I've been discovering just for the last 24, 48 hours with this concept of heart coherence. And this concept just blew me away, because all the other stuff that I've been sharing with you every Wednesday on Soulful Wednesdays, it all makes a whole lot of sense to me, and it's all, I get it, and how to overcome that ego. But this is just, I don't know, it just made it so much more clear and so much more light on the subject. So heart coherence. And what is coherence? Coherence is the quality of being logical and consistent, the quality of forming a unified whole. Now, in the chat, I want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, with consistency in your life, in your heart, in your emotions, in your feelings, on a scale of 1 to 10, how consistent are you? Even on a daily basis if you want, but in your life, how consistent are you? Where you just that same level, same feel? A 10 would be, oh man, I'm just always, my heart is just always perfect, and my emotions, and it's always consistent, and it's logical. How many of you, well, yeah, thank you, 3. Someone said, hey, wow, I want to talk to you. I need your help. 5, there you go. 5, I'm a 2. 4, you guys are just making me embarrassed. I'm a 2. 5.5, okay, wow. But I really believe that we can be a 10. I really believe we can be a 10 in this consistency of being logical and consistent. the quality of forming a unified whole. These two situations I'm talking about in my life in the last 10 days or so, a couple of weeks, where people that I started out with a very soulful, helpful, gave them everything, and it came back with suspicion and accusations and fear of loss, the whole mindset of scarcity versus abundance. And it really hurt both of these parties. It horribly hurt them in the long term, but they don't even know that because we don't live in this concept, above all else I want to see. We're taught and we're trained to, above all else I want to know, right? Because that's what the ego wants. The ego wants to know. The soul, the spirit wants to see. And that's the difference. Well, this heart coherence we're going to go over today, it's going to get you there where you can get to that 6 and that 7 and that 8 and that 9 and that 10 of consistency. And this idea of having your heart and your head being really coherent, no matter what is going on. And I have to be very candid. These two situations just, and then multiple people got involved and talking about Fred DeFalco and did it, and where the other people reacted out of fear and suspicion. And I said, wow, we have so far to go. Now, these are people that have been exposed to my Soulful Wednesdays. These are people that are on the team. And I said, wow, we have so far to go. And it really, instead of making me, act in fear or disappointment and all, it just got me more motivated, saying, above all else, I want to see. Above all else, and lo and behold, 24 hours ago is when I came across this, and I was just blown away. So here we go. Are you ready? About 6 months ago, we did a thing on mindfulness, and in the way that mindfulness is that the oxytocin and the cortisol, why we have so many issues in our lives, why we have health issues, why we have all this, and a lot of it's related to cortisol, and cortisol is the killer. And this disease, where does disease come from? Dis-ease. We're not at ease. We operate out of fear. We operate out of suspicion. We operate out of, scarcity instead of abundance. We operate out of this concept of they're out to get me. We are so consumed that there's something wrong with us. 96 pages of personality disorders. And so this all creates cortisol versus oxytocin. And so we went over this, and this I want to just emphasize because this new thing that I've discovered really even makes more sense of this. And by the way, these YouTube links are in this PDF that I told you. If you email me, answers@thefalco.com, and you just write in the subject line that heart coherence, I will get you a copy of the slide deck. So it'll have all these links here, because this is a powerful presentation on the healing power of mindfulness and how to get oxytocin in your life being the dominant chemical versus the cortisol that kills you. Because this is what this session was all about. If you remember, the atomic immobility, frozen with fear, deer in the headlights, we're brain dead to success. Default mode of the mind all over the place. We change our default setting. That's the problem. When the things that happened this week with these people with suspicion and fear and not communicating and not communing, forget communication. It's bigger than that. We got to commune with one another. What happens, it actually changes your default setting. You're going to see this with this thing about heart coherence in a minute. Wise relationship with our life. The world is not arranged with you as the center of the universe. This is what this mindfulness that we did back, I think it was 6 months ago we did this one. Tune your instruments, paying attention on purpose, too busy to be human. Every moment a new beginning. This is where we need to get to. Let every moment a new beginning. I don't care what's going on, even if it's bad, that's a new beginning for you to learn something. There's a post not too long ago on a real estate mastermind that one of the ladies said, I can't believe it. It's happened to me. A relative of mine bought a house without me, and I'm done. I'm done kissing up to people. I'm not doing this. I told them off. I did this, I did that. Well, I responded and I said, oh my gosh, you missed the biggest career opportunity of your life. So she sent me back praying hands, please enlighten me. Well, I did a video for her, a 2-minute video. She responded back, she said, oh my gosh, I didn't even think, so every moment is a new beginning. As soon as your relative buys a house from somebody else, that's a new beginning for you. You got something to learn there. Whether you want to say God, the universe, whatever it is, somebody's teaching you a lesson, and you're going to keep learning that lesson until you get it. You wonder why we keep coming back to this stuff. Letting it be as it is, all about perspective. Judgment versus discernment. We all want to judge instead of discern. It's a big difference. Awareness, meditative. Mindfulness is not about becoming stupid. With clarity, there's more right with you than wrong with you, no matter what's wrong with you. That's the key. So this has just brought this to light so much, this fascinating relationship between the heart and the brain and the way it really works. And I discovered just yesterday, this organization, heartmath.org. Don't go to your computers, type it in and start looking. Please stick with me a second, because again, you can have this PDF just by sending me an email to answers@defalco.com with heart coherence in the subject line, and you're going to get this. I want to play this for you. I hope, let me see, I hope I hit share sound. Let me make sure that I did. Tell me if you can't hear the sound, say no sound, because I may have forgot to hit. Can you hear sound in the text box? Yes, no?
No, Fred, no sound.
Okay, hold on one sec. I messed up. When I hit share screen, I did not hit share sound. On Zoom, by the way, you got to remember to do that. Okay, one sec. Okay, stop share. I'll be right back here, and we're going to share it correctly this time. When you go to share your computer screen, by the way, not always, most of the time I forget the bottom part. And then when you go to share sound, it disappears. Okay, now we're going to go back here. We're going to hide these meeting controls, so they're out of my way. We're going to open this back up. Then I think we should have the sound. Let's see what happens now. Sound now? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
but I think you stop
Okay,
it.
all right. All right, now we're ready to rock and roll. Let's go.
Did you know that your heart has an incredible, unique intelligence unto itself, or that it has a significant influence on our perceptions, emotional experiences, and higher mental processes? And did you know that the heart can actually sense your emotional response to an event before the event has occurred? You may have instinctively felt that the heart was so much more than a blood pump, but science has actually confirmed it. Researchers discovered that the heart has its own intrinsic nervous system that sends a lot of information to the brain, affecting the way we feel, think, and perceive. In fact, the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. Scientists refer to this as the little brain in the heart. But don't let the diminutive name fool you. The heart-brain can act independently of the brain in your head. Its neurons have long-term and short-term memory and extensive sensory capacities. The heart and brain communicate with each other in a complex dance. As we experience emotions through the day, our heart rhythm patterns tend to reflect how we're feeling. This information is monitored by the emotional centers in the brain, where they are then perceived as feelings of fear, anger, joy, appreciation, etc. When we get bogged down with stress, worry, impatience, information overload, or indecision, the heart's rhythm has a jagged and irregular pattern. The resulting disorder or incoherence in the nervous system creates noise or static that in essence causes the neurons in the brain to get out of sync, resulting in impaired mental functioning or cortical inhibition. We can feel energy drained with more mental fog, making it difficult to focus, remember things, listen deeply, and make clear decisions. However, on the upside, when we experience feelings like love, kindness, appreciation, or compassion, it creates a smooth, coherent heart rhythm pattern. This has a calming and balancing effect and creates more harmonious cooperation between the heart, brain, and hormonal system. This not only improves how we feel, but also our ability to think clearly. We can see creative solutions to problems and more easily discern intelligent choices and decisions. This is cortical facilitation. The good news is we don't have to wait until we happen to feel good to experience this uplift. We can choose to create it ourselves. Research shows that when we practice activating positive heart qualities, care, cooperation, forgiveness, etc., it has a carryover effect that increases the overall baseline of coherence in our system. So we have more resilience during stressful experiences and can more easily maintain our poise, confidence, and self-security when challenges arise. This is the intelligence of a coherent heart. We offer many free tips and techniques to increase your heart coherence based on our 30 years of research on the subject. Head to heartmath.org/resources to learn more.
Sorry about that little messed your video up there. All these windows going and you click one thing and it moves the other. Anyway, when you get this deck and you go here to heartmath.org, and then you take, if you haven't done this mindfulness, this 2-hour mindfulness one that we went over about 6 months ago, I did a whole session on this. The way this all works and what she really said is the main thing I want to emphasize is create it ourselves, no matter what's going on, and that no matter how stressful the situation. And I'm going to be really, I'm going to be so candid with you. I am so calm, cool, and collective in so many stressful situations. I started to worry about myself. I started saying, am I creating all these stressful situations so I can keep practicing this? But when I got into this yesterday, really dove into this, I went, no, it's because I focus on seeing versus knowing. I don't care who's right. I don't care who's wrong. I just care what's right and what's wrong. And it made sense to me last night that the ability that I've been able to develop is not because of me, it's because of just allowing this synchronicity between the heart and the brain, and then getting them two to work together, where when you're ruling your life from the heart, when I got this past 2 weeks, 10 days, when these two situations came out, when I had all intentions of assisting and creating something much better for a couple other people's lives, and it came back. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I mean, that was enough to give some people a heart attack. I mean, the accusation and all the other stuff, it was amazing how it worked. That's because everybody else was in their head, and none of it was true. It all turned out to be not true. And in both situations, it got 3 or 4 other team members involved. It was a mess, but it was all perception, no reality whatsoever. And so this is so critical that we balance this, because this is where this is the only way understanding this from the science part is that we can accomplish this battle of ego versus soul. And ego is the whole thing. We've done this is many times, I've gone over this. And when you get your slide deck, this is all kinds of things on this ego versus soul. This is just a Google search, ego versus soul, because this is where the battle is, between the head and the heart. But if you understand the science of it and the way that we were created and the way those two work together, and you can get them working together, you won't have to, live with this enemy of yours, this ego, which is ego seeks to serve itself. Soul seeks to serve others. Ego seeks outward recognition. Soul seeks inner authenticity. Ego sees life as competition. Soul sees life as a gift. In both those situations I was telling you about, they saw themselves in competition with me when I was serving them, and the ego was so much in the way, they didn't even see it. And they cut off so many future opportunities for themselves. It's horrible. Soul sees life as a gift. Ego sees life as a competition. Soul sees life as a gift. Ego seeks to preserve self. Soul seeks to preserve others. Ego looks outward. Soul looks inward. Ego feels lack. Soul feels abundance. And you may say, well, wait a minute. I can't figure out how to start sales up. I can't do this. I can't do. How do I feel abundance? You already have the abundance. It's already inside you. You need to bring that out, right? So only the ego is the one that's telling you that you lack. Because the soul, when you pay attention to it, is all about abundance. Ego is mortal. Soul is eternal. Ego is drawn to lust. Soul is drawn to love. Ego seeks wisdom. Soul is wisdom. You don't have to seek it. The soul is the wisdom. Ego enjoys the prize. Soul enjoys the journey. Ego is cause to pain. Soul is cause of healing. Ego rejects God. Soul embraces God. Ego seeks to be filled. Soul is eternal wholeness. Ego is me. Soul is we. I am because you are. Namaste, right? I am because you are. And so how do we overcome this? I'll tell you what, this thing is really, when you dive into this, has really helped me. When you get this, I hope that you dive into it the way I did. And I'm just getting started. Oh my gosh, because this thing here, I know that's my one enemy, is that ego. And this goes back to what we for those of you who've been with me a long time, is that we came off the assembly line the way it is on the left. We came as souls. We're spiritual beings having a earthly experience. But we were programmed, 90% of 98% of us are programmed with these belief systems that it's all about, the body and then the soul. And then, then we're spiritual. I gotta raise up to a spiritual level. No, you came as a spiritual level. You are spirit. And, so that's how we came off the assembly line. And when we're going back. We came from love, we're going back to love. So how do we live here? And if you remember, for those of you who've been involved with me a long time, it's all about heart, right? It's this ego versus the soul thing. You got to be honest. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to have empathy. The attitude is where the scale comes, right? And if you try to live over here with the ego and raise your performance, if you remember, one of my favorite conversations is to illustrate this was Robin Williams. He lived over here all his life, always making the world happy, but inside he never got there because he was always about performance. And what a marvelous individual that everyone knew who he was, but he didn't know who he was. So this is such a difference. And when you get this slide deck, I want you to print this out and put it up because, this is where the illusions come from. And this is over here is where the reality is. This over here is where all the blindness is. This is where the vision is. Again, the body ego battle versus the soul and the mind. And now with this heart mind synchronicity, I mean, if we can just keep emphasizing with ourselves and our families, hey, let's operate out of love, not fear. Let's operate with the internal, not the external, because this is what the external gives you. This is what the internal will give you. Over here is about conflict and anger. These two situations, and again, I loved it because we are teachers and learners of one another. It taught me a lot, but it's amazing. It was all about conflict and anger over here. I was just trying to get to the collaboration and the peace. So when you request this, and these are the other ones that we've done, surviving versus thriving. And so I just kept all these in here for you. So when you get this one again, this is that mini course in life that I keep talking about. I want to make sure I put that back in there where you have it. This is the book that can help you get these two things into creating your own reality. One of the things that video said, you can get to the point where you create this. You're not dependent on it from the outside. You create it from the inside when you get that heart and that head, to sync, and you understand the power of that. Frank McKinney is a master at this. And aspiration comes from the soul, not the ego. Motivation a lot of times and inspiration just make me feel better. That's all about the ego. Whereas aspiration is a whole lot more about the soul. And, this is the book that I'm promoting because, my interest in Haiti, and because all this gets donated to Haiti, 100% of it. So when you, purchase one of these books, 2,000 meals are fed in Haiti. It's incredible. But this book, I'm in it now, and it definitely will get that heart and that mind working in synchronicity. And then I gave you the 12 principles of attitudinal healing with all the links that we've done before with emotional intelligence. So please request this on an email with heart coherence as a subject line, and I will send it to you. So going back, let's go back here with the ego and the soul, and let's work together on this and stick together with one another and help each other, encourage one another. And I can't wait to hear back from you, your feedback when you get into heartmath.org. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's on there that they're selling, but when I looked at the free materials yesterday and downloaded some of it, it's incredible. So I'm hoping that I'm leading you to this water. I hope that you drink it, because I would love to see all of us have this heart coherence, the quality of being logical and consistent, the quality of forming a unified whole, because that's what it's all about. It's about being holy, WHOLLY. That's what real life's about. And so many religions teach we're supposed to be holy, HOLY, which is not possible for a human being. To accomplish that had to be accomplished by our Creator. He took care of all that. She, he, universe, whatever you're comfortable with, took care of our HOLY. It's our job to take care of our WHOLLY. You got it? That's the difference. So when you can get your heart coherence together, the quality of forming a unified whole, that's when you become that whole person. And watch what happens in your business, in your family life. It all becomes, it becomes almost automatic. It becomes almost automatic. So let me stop share, because now what we want to do is get to the real stuff where we are. Am I still sharing? Where's my Zoom? Stop share. I hit my good old boom, leave meeting. When you hide these controls, sometimes you can't get them back. Here it is, stop share. All right, perfect. Thank you. So, it's all yours. Let's talk. Soul versus ego. Heart coherence.
Hey Fred, can you hear me okay? It's Trisha House.
I can hear you fantastic, Trisha.
Okay, because I just changed up my system here. I want to tell you, wow, and congratulations. I actually am a former student of Heart Math, and all that you're talking about, yeah, it was about 15 years ago, actually. There was a center here in Orlando, and I got connected with somebody, and, it was really incredible. And there's a ton of different products, and I actually, there's a way of increasing memory and, bringing a sense of calm and following. It's not breathing, and it's not anything that you can manipulate. It really is a sense of calm, but there is a training that can be done. And I'm just saying for myself, it was an incredible time, and I'm really glad that you brought this up because it's reminding me of some techniques and some things that I've absolutely forgotten. But when I
Oh,
tell
good,
you, it's powerful. It's
good.
powerful. So I just want to
Yeah,
encourage everybody else.
yeah, it's interesting how things come to you at a certain time in this last 10 days or so. Because when these kinds of things happen in your life, right, a lot of times it gets that cortisol going. But fortunately, again, my training in A Course in Miracles and different things, above all else, I want to see, not understand. I just want to see. And as I was going, I want to see this. How did that happen? And it was two people that were very, very, every other way you think that everything is together and understood. And then the other people that they got involved, I was like blown away. I said, how could the ego be so big that these individuals that I love dearly allowed that? And so I really was on a seeking journey. And all of a sudden yesterday, I came across heart math. I'd never seen that before in all my different studies and stuff. And just at the times I needed, and this idea of the heart coherence and pulling it together with all the other training, it's just, I said, wow, 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 wow. So good. I'm glad to hear that you're familiar with it. I'm gonna get real familiar with it.
Praise God. I mean, really, it's an incredible thing. And you know,
Yeah.
the other perspective is the shift from dealing with problems and issues as attacks to opportunities of growth. So there's always a reason why something comes into our world. And I heard you say a couple of things that really tuned me into congratulations. I mean, it's like the Great Awakening is somewhat is a common mantra that's happening out there. And really, there's been a great awakening happening for generations. It's really a personal thing that happens when you shift your mind to pleasing others or from pleasing others or thinking you have to perform to finding that peace inside and being able to view problems no longer as problems, but as opportunities for our good, even the
Yeah.
most difficult things.
Yeah. The Chinese, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, their symbol for crisis and opportunity is the same. Because crisis is nothing different than it's a opportunity rising on that wind. So we don't have any crisis, folks. We do not have any crisis. You know, I lost $5 million. That was not a crisis. That was an opportunity. I lost a marriage after 40 years. That was not a crisis. That was an opportunity. I lost a daughter at 30. I didn't lose her. She moved on to bigger and better things at 36 years old. That was not a crisis. That was an opportunity, right? And so we just think this ego just wants to be so earthly bound, we're heavenly no good, right? Or sometimes we're so heavenly bound, we're earthly no good. So it's this balance of understanding who we are, what we are, where we came from, where we're going to, and this idea that it's all love. You know, we came in this slide deck. You know, I have that poem again. You know, dear human, we got it all wrong. And then when you look at these charts, Tricia, if you hadn't been involved before, 6 months ago when I was involved in this heavenly every Wednesday, you'll see that difference on that left and that right. So, you know, life is not happening to us. It's happening for us, whether we like it or not. And we're all going to get out of this. We're all going to get out of this. You got it? And it's a good thing. It's a good thing because we're here to do a certain thing, right? And that's what we got to find out. What is that certain thing? And it's no one can tell you what that is, only you. And the greatest religious leaders, I don't care whether you want to go to Judaism or the Christianity, you know, Muslim, Hindu, whatever you want to go to, all the religious leaders, when you mix them all together, there's one message. It's all inside you already. It's all inside you already. It's all inside you already. There's nothing you can add to your life. And there's nothing you can add to your life. The only thing you can do is pull out what's in there. And that's what we're here for. You've got to stop the prayers. Dear God, help me. You got to start saying, dear God, what can I do for you today? Dear God, what can I do for you today? You know, we can really get in heavily into that one, you know. Someone was bringing up something very personal the other day, and they said, you know, I keep praying, and I asked God, you know, forgive me. And then I said, God's not hearing that prayer. And I'm just telling you how my experience has been. God doesn't hear the prayers for forgiveness because he has no judgment anymore. That all happened a couple thousand years ago, the way I see the way life happened. So how can you ask somebody that you believe is all powerful for something he can't, that's already been given? It doesn't make sense, right? So when we realize that we got everything we ever need, it's like the starving world. Folks, we have every bit of supplies that we need to feed 100% of the people on the earth. But because of the ego, it's not being distributed. Because of scarcity mentality, it's not being distributed. Every time the little $50 opportunities come up, we go, well, no, maybe next time. But if all of us, once we get to that point to realize when I give, I'm not giving anything because there's no loss when I give. It's all one big part. It's all abundance, right? It's all abundance. Tony Robbins tells the story when he gave away only $27 to his name. And with that story, if that doesn't light you up, you know, when he was a young kid, he gave away his last $27 and he was homeless just about. And, you know, what resulted from that. So this idea of this heart and this head synchronicity is so critical. You know, goes back to Jim Rohn, work harder on yourself than you do anything else. Goes back to Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. And when these issues took place, I tried to get a pause button in there, said, hey, wait a minute. Do we want to experience peace or do we want to experience conflict? And it was totally foreign because the ego was so much in the way that they didn't see a bigger picture for themselves. And for the relationship that was between us. But it's all good because we all will learn from that. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So anyway, you're so right. So anybody else, chime on in.
I'm going to speak up. So thanks. You're definitely speaking my language, and I'm sitting here listening to you going, oh my God, this is amazing. So I teach a class on the law of attraction, and we got together for the first time in person after 1.5 years last week. And we were really talking about, you know, through challenging times, how do we put into practice activating the feelings of love and activating the feelings that are going to bring us more joy and the joy to the people around us. And that's what it's all about. And it takes a practice and a dedication. And for me, it's daily. I meditate. And when the obstacles to peace come up, when the situations arise that I feel so, you know, the fear comes in or the emotion, and believe me, it does a lot. And I pay attention. That's the time to take the pause, particularly when you're having a disagreement with somebody and there's accusations and things that just are coming at you, because we as humans want to defend and attack back, because then we feel that we're going to be right. So would we rather be right or rather be happy? But being right, you never win, and neither does the other side. So I love the power of the pause, because the pause gives us time, and it actually triggers the amygdala, because we're in fight or flight, to calm the nervous system down so that we can respond in a more loving and authentic way, which is really what we want. And hopefully the end result will bring more peace to the situation. And you know what? Sometimes it will bring peace to us and not the other party. And for me, that's the hardest part, because I never want to, you know, hurt anyone or you know, offend anyone or anything. But you know what? We're human beings, and sometimes we just have to let it go and let go what other people think, as long as we're always doing our best and coming from a place of love.
Yeah, Melissa, I'm glad you chimed in, because that idea of the power of pause, that's where the cortisol will substitute. You know, I mean, that's where the oxytocin will substitute for the cortisol. The cortisol is what causes, you know, ulcers doesn't come from what you've been eating. Ulcers come from what's eating you. Okay, ulcers don't come from what you're eating. It comes from what's eating you. And when that power of pause is so powerful because you stop that cortisol, and then you'll get that oxytocin. And that's that heart message. That's when you allow the heart to sync with the mind when you pause, right? And then there's on a practical sense, that power of pause. Let me give you two practical things. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the curse word should. We should all over ourselves. Well, this is another powerful thing. Two things, a practical sense. Now, some people laugh at me when I do it. My sister, who just passed away from pancreatic cancer, almost even on her deathbed, she kind of poked fun at me with this. I always am one, if I know that you're 50, for example, and you tell me how big a problem you have, and I'll go, let me ask you a question. 55 years ago, did you have this problem? And you go, well, of course not. 55 years from now, will you have this problem? Of course not. So is it really inexistent, or is it an illusion, or are you making it a problem because your perception? So that's one thing. Always think bigger, right? Always think bigger, because that's what the soul does. It thinks big. It thinks eternal. Okay, it realizes. Okay, so that's number one. The other thing that you want to do at that given moment, when you say, you've got to substitute that thought and go, let me ask you a question. If I just got a call that one of my kids was in a an accident, they don't know whether they're living or not, and they're in the emergency room, would you sit there and still deal with that problem? Or you think that would take precedence over that problem? So what's really creating the problem is our thinking, right? Because you can alter it like that, right? And we know for a fact that, so there's practical things to force you into that power of pause. Use those two practical ideas, because what we think are solutions, let's say if it's financial issues that we get consumed with, which we all do, and you could hit the instant lottery for $500 million, you're going to have a whole set of new problems. You may say, yeah, but I'd rather have those, Fred. No, you don't, not necessarily. I can give you story after story. I've flown on jets with billionaires. Believe me, that's a whole new set of problems. So there's no such thing. So that power of pause, force yourself into that, to get that cortisol, to stop, to get that cortisol to stop. Should-haves, when we talked 2 weeks ago about the should-haves is is a cortisol trigger, right? And you need to find things that trigger the oxytocin to that natural drug, that natural high, and that's almost like snorting cocaine. I mean, why do people get addicted to cocaine? It's that instant change in the mind. You have that power automatically. We have that natural pharmacy, but we don't know how to tap it because we've been programmed with our belief systems. And when you're programmed with the things we've been programmed with, it is a daily practice. It's a daily practice. It's so important. So thank you.
A simple thing that I do on a regular basis, particularly with setting goals, is, there's a saying, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And it really, if you set that as your goal for the day, like, who can I give back to today? And it doesn't even have to be monetary, just lending your ear for 10 minutes. Helping somebody, even giving a smile to a stranger when they don't respond back. You don't know the impact that passes on to the other person. They could be having a terrible day, and just your warm body language and your welcoming smile could change the course of their day, and you don't even know about it. So it's really, how can I give back today? That's one of the little tricks that will tap into that oxytocin and start to, chemically change and alter the way that we think for the long term.
Folks, we are incredible, incredible, incredible people. There's a psalm in the Torah, or in the Old Testament, right? And the Hebrew scriptures is what I call them. And it says, oh God, what is man that you are mindful of him? You've made him just a little lower than the angels. And yet we have so many programmings, and especially from most religions, programming that there's something wrong with us, or there's certain things you got to do to measure up, or there's certain things that, in all these belief systems based on theology and so many other things, that all these belief systems we've been programmed, there's something wrong with us. 96 pages of personality disorders. We are consumed that there's something wrong. We're consumed. And it's the little things that there's something wrong with the way that guy drives. There's something wrong with this. There's something wrong with that. Little things. I was at Costco the other day. I see this Jeep pull up, right? And I've just finished a cart. And when I had gone into Costco, there was a shortage of carts, right? So I saw them pull up. So I was ready to put the cart down to where, and I said, oh, they're just pulling up. I'll be nice. I'll put the cart over there. Well, they didn't get out of the car right away. So meanwhile, I put my groceries. So I put it over like right where they parked almost. And so, so I was waiting for them to get out to tell them. So finally they got out and she gets out and I said, hi. I said, hey, how you doing? I said, hey, I just left that cart for you. I said, because there's a shortage of carts. I figure you're going to want a cart. She says, oh, well, thank you. That was nice. She said, and I just looked. I said, what dummy left the cart right there where people park? And we do that all the time. Life is trying to give us gifts, right? I tried to give someone gifts twice in the past 10 days. And both times that the parties, and then they got other people involved about how it wasn't a gift, it was a curse that I had tried to accomplish. And all the time I was giving them a gift and we blow it. So how many gifts have we missed and over? Anyway, so judgment. All right, somebody else, speak up.
Hey, Fred, can I click in for a minute?
Absolutely.
So good morning and thank you. Melissa and Trisha, y'all have hit on something that Fred, what he teaches us, and what he expounds and pours into us is, I think, very dynamic. And for me, it has been a situation where life is but 18 inches. And the 18 inches is between my head and my heart. That's the distance. And what's interesting is that my mind is out to get me. My heart is out to save me. Now, usually I use more colorful words. However, what's interesting is when I go internal for that pause, and if we look at it as a sheet of music, music is not music unless there's a pause between the notes. And the notes that I have to receive is the pause in between, which is where the blessing stands for my responsibility to be accountable to my world, my God, my people. So I wanted to ask Fred a question because the seeds of greatness are planted within us from the very beginning. It's feeding those seeds and growing those seeds and bearing fruit. Fred, when did you come to the realization that you were a fruit bearer and a fruit sharer?
I don't think that anyone could put a day and a time, because I think it's a culmination. Frank McKinney, is a very, very devout Catholic, right? And in his books, and I've been to one of his revealings of $18 million mansion, and he did the crucifixion. That's how devoted Catholic he is. He was actually on the cross as Jesus, okay? Now that is pretty bold, okay? Now, why did he do that? Because his whole thing is a verse that he says that he's lived his life by, to whom much is given, much is required. I know it's a long answer, but I think it's important. To whom much is given, much is required. Well, that can go every which way. My life has been a whole string of failures from the time I was born, from sexual abuse up to business losses and everything else. But so it looks like failures, right? What the world would call failures. But every single experience in my life has led me up to, but being the last of 6 kids and the sexual abuse and stuff made me a big encourager. Back then I was trying to figure out things. And so all of our lives, right? So where I started realizing that life wasn't happening to me, but it was happening for me, was when all these life experiences, in the final crisis, and I always say, you don't find heaven until you go to hell, okay? And when I went to hell about 7 years ago, okay, with a major crash of a 40-year-old company and $35 million company and blah, 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 and a 40-year marriage and a loss of a 36-year-old daughter, all within a span of 36 months, I realized that, wait a minute, it's bigger than my religion has ever taught me. It's bigger than whatever my belief systems have taught me. It's bigger than this, bigger than that, bigger than this. And I give credit to a Course in Miracles that gave me some balance of all those other experiences. So that's when it really hit me that salvation is not in my opinion, not opinion, but my learning, salvation is not of heaven, of this or that. Salvation is of here, of this earth. And as I started looking at every religious teacher, especially where the one that I looked up to was Jesus, and I of course still do, and I believe that, but that he really didn't come to bring us to heaven. He came to save us from earth. You know, the woman caught in adultery. He didn't say, hey, lady, hurry up, repent for your sins, get up and stop that stuff and you'll get to go to heaven. No, he said, when they were trying to stone her to death, he didn't say anything about theology. All he talked about was love. He said to the people that was accusing her, which were all religious leaders, by the way, ready to throw rocks at her, the way they executed people back then, he just simply looked at her and said, to them, he says, hey, who's without sin cast the first stone. And these religious leaders knew that that was not possible. So they all walked away, and all he had was a simple quote. Go. He says, look, where are your accusers? Neither do I accuse you. Neither do I accuse you. Why? Because she's holy, because of him. So this enlightenment, or this where we become fruit bearers, Claire, in my opinion, is a whole lifelong thing, but there is a certain point. So mine was, and it started, I should say, 7 years ago, but it's even like this week has been to me with this crisis, with these relationships that are so important to me. I mean, in this group, I couldn't believe how it backfired on me. 2 big deeds of kindness that I was really had a good intention. That was a little bit of a hell for me because I'm a real relationship guy, right? And I give my heart and soul to everything. But so it's a constant thing, I think. Like Melissa said, it's a daily practice. But about 7 years ago is when I because of Course in Miracles teaches it's a thought reversal system. And when I started reversing myself and realized I had to unlearn, not learn anymore, because I knew my theology. Oh my gosh, I knew this, I knew that, but it didn't serve me. It didn't heal anybody. It didn't, so 7 years ago is when it started, that it all started coming together after I exited hell, and then I started finding heaven, and so about 7 years ago.
So that goes along with what we need so far as transparency in allowing people to understand that our life is made up of spiritual experiences and spiritual awakenings. It is a growth and it is a process that we go through. We all go through certain times. And I'm so glad that you shared with us about this relationship situation, because it just goes to show, none of us are on pedestals. None of us are better than anyone else. We may be better at something, and that's the reason why we rely upon ourselves as a community. But no one's better than anybody else. Even Jesus, when he was giving out what God gave to him, not everybody received. I have to make sure that I'm receiving as well. Because if I'm not receiving, then my tank can't be filled to give. And if I keep what has been given to me, it will rot. So my responsibility is to give it away. So it's similar in the facts that I think some people may say, oh, well, they've got this, and this. No wonder they can stay positive all the time. And that's not an absolute truth. If you can still have love and joy through the struggles, through the growth, that is that breath, that pause where that cortisol is put in a diminishment. Because I can assure you, I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. I was a broken play toy as a child by a stepfather. That I could go on and on. However, this is the absolute truth.
Oh my gosh.
I never, ever thought of myself as a victim. However, I had to grieve the loss and the trauma and seek what needed to be found through those times in the valley, because they were growing experiences. They were preparing me for the people that God has placed in my position to help. And that's the joy. All of our struggles, all of our failures are going to be somebody else's success as well as our own. That's the joy of it. So thank you, Fred. Thank you, everyone who participates. Y'all are incredible. And when we go deep like this, it touches the lives of the people around us.
Amen.
It just does.
And Claire, it's amazing. And one of the things that you kind of went over quickly is about, we look at people, we think they're on a pedestal. Nobody is on a pedestal. Nobody, the reason I'm so in love with what the work that Frank's doing and in love with Frank himself is because he's so authentic. He's so transparent. He's so vulnerable. He's just a real human being, and he's been one of the most consistent people, but yet his book, Aspire, he says he wrote it because he couldn't figure out why he's still not consistent in his life. And when you read that book, you go, oh my gosh, how could he say that? But nobody, we're not here to be on pedestals. We're not here to be on pedestals. We're here to be real. And that's why that PDF, I hope you all requested, is that, you know, a lot of those things that we go into. And I mean, you look at Claire, some of the time she's spoken, and everyone say, oh, wow, what a wonderful woman. She's got her stuff together. She got this, got that. Oh my gosh. And we're all, you know, look, Grant Cardone was speaking at the EXP convention, and I mean, Grant Cardone he's a wild guy. He comes from a totally different, but he was talking about how many haters he has. He was talking about how many haters he has, and his wife says, how do you handle all the haters? He said, I just focus on my lovers. You know, those people I'm here to serve, and you know, and once we realize, and that's where. One time, Claire, we did a whole thing on, you know, only one rule you need to change your life, and it had to do with eschatology. Eschatology is the way that we believe that the earth is going to end. All this craziness this stuff that's so crazy that religion teaches us. So I did a whole thing on that. When we realize finally that we are here we've been given a sentence in a good way. We've been sentenced here to bring that love. Right? Like you said, all those experiences, and allow that love that we came from and that we're going back to make that into something beautiful. Because if you can introduce me to one person that's not broken, I want to see them. I want to see them. I need to meet them because there are none. There's no people that are not broken. I'm broken. Oh my gosh, I'm broken. and if I don't daily practice, you know, I'm broken 14 times a day. Right? So great stuff. Great stuff.
So
Anyway,
one of the things, so Fred, let's look at it this way. You know, when I was in my broken stages, I had to remember, and you talked about this very extensively on this call, it had to do about ego. Okay. My ego needed to be broken at those times because I've been told that I need to remember that I am clay. And if I remember and in my mind, place myself on that potter's wheel, and my Lord is molding me every day, that means I have to stay pliable. He takes that water from that sponge and he squeezes it, and then he presses down and he makes a beautiful vessel. Well, when that vessel and that purpose is done, guess what he does? He smashes it again and he creates another for his purpose. So it's in those times of brokenness, I remember I took myself off of the wheel, put myself in the kiln, thought that I was done, and I was wrong.
Amen. And you know what? We think we're here to do something for God. We're not, folks. Or life. If you're not comfortable with God, or you think you're here to do something for life or leave a legacy and all that stuff, there's I don't care how many great people in the legacies, and I believe in legacies. And I'm not saying I don't believe in legacies. And Frank talks a lot about that in his book, Aspire. I believe in legacies, but I'm saying that's not our focus. That comes almost automatically, you know, because it's what we allow life to produce in us while we're here. Folks, I mean, listen, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, 150 years, not a very long time. And I live by that motto, man. When I start feeling the stress and that cortisol starting to try to kick in on me, I don't allow it. I just simply say, 70 years ago, I never had that issue. 70 years from now, I'll never want to deal with it anyway. So what's the difference now? Just let it go, right? And it's amazing how many things dissolve. I think it was Mark Twain. He says, I forget who the quote came from, but he says, my life has been plagued with problems and tribulation, 98% of which never happened. That was as he got older, and I think it was Mark Twain said that. And he says about 98% of them never happened, and it's true. I mean, I would not give up losing my 40 years of work. I would not give up all the things that have happened in my life for what I found, and not for me selfishly, but being a real part of the whole. I am because you are. That's I think that came out of an African philosophy, or I forget where that came from, but I am because you are. And once we realize that we're in this together, then we don't have fear, like a couple things that's happened to me in the past 10 days. We don't have fear and suspicion and accusations and attack and all those things that cause that cortisol just to flourish in our life, you know? So what a great after party, huh, Joe? I love it. So anyone else? Claire, Melissa, and you know what, and ourselves, you got to help me get I want you to request this PDF thing, and under that mini course, that Facebook page, I want to redo it. I did a horrible video on there. I got to redo the video. I need your help to get that mini course Facebook page going, because I got it going there for a little bit and then it kind of dwindled. So please look at that when you get this PDF. It's the mini course for life. It's the Facebook group. Join it. Get through the mini course with me and help me to promote that, because the mini course is so simple. It's that little red book, 18 lessons. And I'll tell you, this group, by the way, this is the way I built the #1 office as a 26-year-old new manager. From 26 to 29, the #1 office out of 13 offices, because of people working on the mindset and the heart set. So that mini course in life will cause us to be more productive, because it fulfills what Jim Rohn talked about. You work harder on yourself than anything else. And when we can operate in a spirit of abundance and a spirit of, you know, do I want to experience peace or conflict? And I had someone here the other day. He just almost cussing his buyer out because his buyer is being unreasonable. And told her stop. I won't say her name. Stop. Time out. Let's just talk about this. And so as I got him to change his attitude, the deal worked out. It was ready to go bye-byes. And it was his attitude that was driving the bye-byes.
And the interesting thing is, oftentimes what we think is the biggest challenge works out better than we could have ever thought possible. And when you were to tell the story a week or a month or a year later, it's where you had your biggest growth, and you couldn't imagine it coming out any better than it did.
Yep. So anyway, all good stuff, man. I could go for another hour with this.
Me
All right,
too.
Joe, you want to take it on the road here?
Thank you